Welcome to Esperanza Podcast, a complimentary service that gives business owners a platform to share their journey and inspire others. Esperanza is brought to you by Hope for Founders, offering CEO chair and one-on-one coaching, and proudly supported by our sponsors Tolen & Co, specialists in sales training and networking events, and Maria Bex, delivering studio quality podcast production. Today's guest is Steve Tolen, a powerhouse in sales leadership, brand building, and revenue generation with over 20 years' experience. Steve thrives on helping recruitment business leaders grow sustainably, combining deep industry know-how and cutting-edge strategies like social selling and insight-led outreach. He's a co-host of quarterly networking series Change the Game and is passionate about it, building strong relationships and taking businesses from ground up to standout success. Whether it's boosting your brand, connecting you to new clients, or revitalizing sales efforts, Steve is the strategic growth partner you want in your corner. All right, welcome everyone. It's Stephen Shaw from Hope for Founders. I'm here today with Steve Tolen, an expert in recruitment and sales, and we're going to do a bit of a sales masterclass today. Not from myself, but Steve is an expert in sales. I'm going to ask the questions, but Steve, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Delighted to be here. So thanks for the invitation.
Excellent. All right. So before we get into the questions, maybe we start a bit about a few personal questions.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe your ideal day?
Mate, it was an ideal world and routine. I've slacked a little bit recently, but normally go to the gym 5:30 in the morning, get back and walk the dog. Because then the dog's happy, but also Ruth's happy.
Yes.
And then, mate,
important.
it is important, mate, as you know. But literally, mate, the thing that I really enjoy, what I'm passionate about, is sales. I enjoy meeting people, connecting with people, right? Yeah. So even when I do have downtime, and I know it might sound a little bit sad, it's my passion. So I enjoy reaching out to people, connecting people. Like that's kind of sounds like my ideal day, and of course I'll have to balance that with spending some time with the family. So mate, that's probably an ideal day for me.
So get up early, do a big close, and then off to...
Exactly. But you've got to get it in, mate. And I found that I can't really train in the evening.
Yes.
So if I don't do it in the morning, it tends not to happen.
Excellent. All right. And dead or alive, if you would invite 3 people to dinner, who would you be inviting?
Wow, great question. There is a very simple answer for this one, and hopefully I don't come across as a big softie. It would have to be my mum, first and foremost. You know, we should have actually been in the UK at this point in time, and I don't mind sharing with you. We were going to go back, but financially we'd pay for the flights and stuff, and we looked at the cost of what it was going to be with a family of 5, and it was bonkers. So telling my mum I wasn't coming back when she was looking forward to seeing the grandkids as well as me wasn't great. And then, to be honest, again, number 2 and number 3 would have to be my family, you know, Ruth and the kids. I've probably not spent as much time with them recently as I would, mate, so hopefully that wins me kind of some brownie points, but I do need to probably, that would probably be my ideal kind of guest list, if that makes sense, for dinner.
Well, I've got it on camera, so yeah. I'll be first to get the...
Yeah, they'll be sitting there going, you absolute liar.
All right, and were you born a natural salesman? Were you pitching from birth?
Mate, family business from the age of 17, so went into the fish business with my dad, so Master Seafoods, and I picked it up really early. Always enjoyed, I mean, you know, an extrovert, outgoing, attention to details never really been my strong points, but I've enjoyed sales, and just kind of fell into it, and I really excelled in it, and you know, it was as grassroots as you could kind of get. You know, I've shared this story quite a few times, but we had a wholesale side and a retail side. So a retail side it was based in Liverpool Fish Market. You could come in and buy a single fish or a box or whatever for a restaurant, but there was also wholesale where we supplied restaurants and did a bit of import-export. And even to this day, people buy from people, tools have changed, the products changed, etc. What I've always really enjoyed is being myself, being a big personality, and what you see is what you get. You know, I know all my strengths, I know my weaknesses, but yeah, mate, from the age of about 17, I just kind of fell into it, and I've been in sales for, makes me really old, just over 30 years now.
Is that right? Yeah. Big anniversary.
Yeah, indeed.
Excellent. So what brought Alliance Supporter to Northern Beach in Sydney?
So 2008, Ruth and I, we were actually living in Bristol,
Yeah.
and we decided that it was time for a bit of a change, and Australia appealed. Neither of us had actually been to Australia.
Yeah.
Both worked in recruitment, and just decided it was time for a bit of a change. And I got a job offer to come to Brisbane, ironically, and they were like, "You sure you want to go to Brizzy?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Fine." I've never been to Brisbane, never been to Oz, and as soon as I accepted the offer, which was about October '08, and it was a British firm, found out literally that night that Ruth was pregnant. And I kid you not, when we went home, we were back to the terraced house in Bristol. What's the worst that could happen? And what happened during that process is when you come in as a POM over to Oz, you have to go to the medical, various things, because she was pregnant. She couldn't do the chest x-ray. So it elongated the process. And what I then found out is Christmas kind of came and went, but January nothing happens in Australia, which I now understand why. So the visa got held up, and it came through Valentine's Day '09, and by then she was obviously four and a bit months pregnant. Forget the math. And 27 days later, we were on the plane, Friday 13th of March, and we landed in Brizzy. Yeah. New life, neither of us had been there, what have you, didn't know anybody. What's the worst thing that could happen? Day one in the office, they shut the office.
Wow.
So the business I was joining was very dependency in construction, engineering, mining, all the sectors that were really destroyed basically in '09. So Brisbane, we were there maybe for a matter of 5 days. We flew back down from Brisbane that Friday with nothing more than 4 suitcases. And the reason we ended up in Manly is literally we did a tour that Saturday. We got the bus, and someone said you can go on the ferry to Manly. Went over, and we liked the look of it. And I said, "Is there a maternity ward here?" And there was, and that's actually how we ended up on the Northern Beaches, mate. So we're still here 16 years later.
Yeah, well, having lived in Manly, I can understand
Yeah.
why you stay there. So it's a beautiful place. Obviously from Liverpool, but saw Chelsea beat PSG in the World Cup. What were your thoughts on that?
Mate, you're not the first to message me, and I mean, good luck to them. I think being an Everton fan, and also being a Blues supporter, do you know what, mate? They're like light years ahead of kind of where we are. Evertonians are very working class, very proud, very passionate, but we haven't won a trophy since '95. And my lads, my 2 boys, who are obviously Everton fans, they say, do you remember? And I was like, yeah, I was there last time in '95 to win a trophy.
Yeah.
I was 18 years of age with the big curtains down at Wembley where we beat Man United. But, mate, proud to be an Evertonian, but I think I sent you a picture before. We've got a sense of humour. There was an Everton fan, and he'd superimposed the Chelsea badge onto his shirt saying, we've won something. But yeah, mate, good luck to them. They're a great side, but it's also interesting the amount of money now that's in professional sport. If you look at where it was 20, 30 years ago now, it tends to be the same teams that actually dominate the ones that obviously have the most capital.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Parramatta Eels supporter, so
Okay,
I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think it's been even longer since then. So. The charismatic closer, is there still a place for that?
Oh, it's definitely, sales has evolved, right? And the tools have changed. Even going back to the first question about the kind of the fish industry, people still buy from people, right? You need skills, people skills. Salespeople traditionally take the mickey out of themselves, right? We're seen as people that will, flog you, whatever, and do anything to kind of get a sale. Mate, it's actually a really sophisticated kind of skill, and it's evolving now. So I think the way things have kind of changed is you have to do a lot more research. You have to be a lot more analytical, and naturally salespeople are not that analytical. I'm one of them. I have to work really, really hard to do research and kind of qualify. But it's still all about relationships. So I think now with the way technology's evolved is your prospect in whatever kind of product it is that you sell, could be cars, could be recruitment, could be whatever, they also have all the access to kind of technology. So what you need to be able to do is really look at data, qualify effectively, utilize the tools, focus on building relationships is what I'd say, because there is a need. So I think there's the closer is not kind of finished. It's just you really have to keep honing in on those relationship skills, acute listening, those kind of things, and less on objection handling, more on kind of pre-identifying problems and going with potential solutions.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was doing a sales training recently, and they'll bring up the elevator pitch. And I remember 20 years ago when I first started in financial planning, first sort of training was on the elevator pitch. But I wonder if it's sort of really relevant these days, given all the preparation.
Yeah, it's a great question. I remember just thinking back to some of my early days in recruitment training 20 years ago. You've got to get your elevator pitch. And literally it was like, if you go into an elevator with someone, it makes me laugh thinking about it now. The best example on this is, or the way that hopefully this kind of makes sense, is the same question gets asked religiously about the cold call. Yep. Is the cold call dead? And my answer to that is euphorically, no, it's not, right? But what you need to do to have a successful cold call has definitely changed. The volume of calls that you would make has changed. So there's steps that you have to do, which goes back to the prior question around research, qualification, using data to enable a call to be better. So I think the mechanism or the success factors have changed. And if you're not doing the groundwork, an elevator pitch is, say, likened to a cold call. If you don't do that upfront work, you will fail.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because I've worked at places like Macquarie Bank. We talked about sort of cold calling, but we did what we call professional stalking.
Yeah.
So looked at things like their LinkedIn profile, social media, and I think that's sort of the value of those things being available is you can do that, and people expect you to do it. So whilst it is a cold call, as you're sort of saying, you're doing a lot of preparation and you're not actually doing cold call, it doesn't come across as a cold call.
Nah, I think, and when I came to Oz 2009, a company I joined, Beresford Blake Thomas, 60 calls a day. And we had a call counter. So, 15, 16 years ago. And, if you didn't hit those calls, the numbers, there was pretty much hell to pay. Yeah. And I look back now and I think, wow, that was pretty astronomical. In a recruitment business now, if someone made 5 to 10 kind of BD calls per day, you'd be pretty happy.
Yes.
I make less calls now than I did 10, 15 years ago, but the success rate is quite high, 90%, whatever, in terms of what's my outcome. Is it simply I want a connection or I want to have a coffee or what have you, because of the research that you've kind of done on the upfront work. So people aren't doing that. And this is where we talk about LinkedIn. It's such a powerful tool, 1 billion users. And someone said something to me the other day when I did a training session. And they said, so LinkedIn really does the small talk for you. And I was like, geez, that is a really good example. It's you're stimulating enough interest of the right people for you to then pick up the phone. So that's, I think that's a really kind of good example of how you kind of go about things.
So what, you talked about getting to the next stage. Is there anything else in your first sort of conversation that is key? Yeah,
mate. So look, when so for me, what I've kind of figured out is 1 to 8 touch points to make a sale, right? Yep. So, if whatever medium you use, if I meet someone at a networking event, right, where it's in person, if I connect with them through LinkedIn or on a call, the goal is not to close, right? It's to have a conversation first and foremost. So I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. The market right now is saturated with technology and automation, the holy grail. You see these posts all the time. It's funny, I was laughing with a friend of mine. Here's my secret sauce. Enter the keyword, the passcode, abracadabra to get the secret formula and this, that, and the other. There isn't, mate. So use technology properly, intelligently. But to me, I look at it and go, it's got to it's enabling you to have more conversations with the right people. Yep. And you can gauge the ones that are actually interested, right? And kind of at what point. So you're never going to take away from that kind of human touch, but I think people got really lazy and simply thought, the first wave of kind of automations, particularly on LinkedIn, we saw maybe 3 to 5 years ago, it was literally, give me the keys to your car, we'll just blast out as many people as we possibly can, and you might get a 1% hit rate, and great if that's what you're after, but the damage that does to your brand. So I think now the way the automation tools and the way that AI's kind of come in, they're mirroring human kind of buying patterns and behaviors, right? So you can intersect with a human touch point, a voice memo or so. So I think you don't automate and expect technology to do the sell for you. But what I would say is utilize it to make sure that you're speaking to more of the right people.
Yeah, actually my first role sort of as a a child was, or as a teenager, was telemarketing, and so I was the person doing the cold calls
Yep.
to just random people after they'd worked all day, and obviously you get told some pretty colourful language if you start calling people up, but that was my motivation of the call. Do not upset them,
Yep.
and book the next meeting.
Yep.
And because, as you say, there is so many touch points, and if the first thing you're trying to do is close in a conversation, it's dead.
Mate, it happens all the time. Like I got one yesterday, and you know, you look at the number, and everyone does this now, right? You know, do I know this person? Who's it from? You know, whatever. And they ring you up, and straight away, you know, is that Mr. Whoever? And you go, okay, what's this about? And it's quite a short call, right?
Yeah.
And I don't sit there as if and go, if someone picks up the phone to me, and I'll give you an example, and this makes sense. It says, hey mate, checked out your website, had a look at your background, etc. I just think there's 2 or 3 things or recommendations that, you know, that might really impact or help and boost your sales or might enhance your brand or what have you. Would you be interested? I'm going to send it through to you. Have a little bit of a read.
Yeah.
You'll engage, right? I do. And I sort of say, I don't kibosh every salesperson, but the ones that are terrible and they just pick up. And I've had everything from, do you want to offshore your back office? You know, do you want to plant a forest in your name was my favourite the other week. You know, all sorts of stuff, which is just really, really lazy kind of outreach.
Yeah.
So I think you're doomed to kind of failure if you're just trying this kind of hit and hope kind of mentality. So it's just not going to work. And the way that things have gone now with the latest kind of Apple updates, you know, where they're going to screen kind of supposed spam calls.
Yes.
You can see the way the market's kind of going, but to kind of balance that out, I don't think the cold call will ever die, but I think it just really makes you look really poor if you haven't done the bare minimum kind of efforts, research, you know, for the person that's on the receiving end.
Yeah, well, it just made me laugh because I remember getting this proposal and said your website is not getting the right SEO, and what I did was I looked at their website and I go, my website's 1,000 times better than your website.
Brilliant,
Like,
brilliant. Yeah.
So you obviously didn't have a look at my website,
Yeah.
but obviously just stock standard information, and there was no effort there.
Well, I'm laughing because I got one of those as well. That was like, that's good because it's not live. So I don't know whose website you were looking at, but thanks. I mean, that's a classic example, right? And you just move them to the other section or just the archive, etc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there is such a change in generational things. I mean, we talked about the elevator pitch, but I don't know anyone speaking to me in the elevator. They're all looking at their phone.
Yeah,
and
100%.
so I think those things, as you said, people screening calls, so it's a lot harder. And with all this artificial world, big sort of thing at the moment is creating authenticity.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting one because it's hard sort of in a professional network, professional brand to create authenticity. How do you go about that, and what would you do to develop trust for someone you've just met?
Yeah, so trust is a big one. I mean, AI offers so much potential, I think, but we're at the start of the kind of the revolution, right? Like, you know, so there's so many tools, there's so many different just solutions that people throw at you. And I've worked, so I always try and give a fair reflection on this, right? So I've worked with a lot of solution providers that are powered by AI that have kind of come in and said to me, here, demo our tool, and I've demoed a few, and I've given them constructive feedback. Some take it better than others, right? Because it's a case of the thing that I say to them, what is the problem that you're trying to solve, okay? First and foremost, if you lead with a price point, it's not what I'm interested in, whether it's $100, $200, whatever. It's what's the problem that you solve, and how is this going to make me increase revenue or what have you. So I think a lot of businesses think, oh geez, you know, we need to implement AI. It's not. It is again. What's that problem that you're trying to solve? So if I look at this from sales perspective, outreach. Okay, it's the most common thing. So you look at tools I do, and I go, I don't want something that's going to blast out 5,000 emails a day, 1 million connection requests, you know, and get like whatever it is, because it just really does more damage to your brand. I like people that come in and say quality over quantity and go, hey, we're gonna, you know, gonna look at your search criteria. We'll aim to connect with X number of people, maybe 20, and out of that, maybe you can stimulate 5 to 10 kind of conversations, right? So quality over quantity is kind of key, but outreach, I can see AI having a real kind of impact there. Search agents, these kind of things, even sales agents are kind of creeping in. Not so much in recruitment at the moment, but I think what it's doing is, if I look at it from a recruitment perspective, is the most common question that we had some 6 to 12 months ago was AI is going to replace recruiters. It's not. Recruiters who use AI strategically will outperform those, and I've seen this. Right? If I look at, sorry if I'm talking specific to recruitment, but hopefully that the message will be universal. So the most common issue that I see with experienced salespeople is exactly that. I've got experience. I've been here before. I know what's going to happen. And I think there's two kind of generations, I think, that are doing really well. I think the Gen Xers in part, because they're resilient, they've been through recessions, various kind of things. They've got that old school mentality where they're used to hustling, they're used to being out and about, but they're also embracing technology. And then the newcomers that are kind of coming through, right? So, those that go, okay, what are you doing? What do I need to do to be successful? And they're following, proven kind of leaders or salespeople, I should say. So I think if you're in that kind of experience category where you think, look, I've been doing this before, and you're not open to change, you're vulnerable.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's just my kind of take on it with AI.
What do you feel is the key things for being successful in sales then?
Mate, it's changed fundamentally even the past few years. So I think recent study that I looked at said potential buyers spend as little as 15 to 16% of their time speaking to new or potential vendors, right?
Yep.
So in other words, the deal's already done before the time that they go to market with a tender or whatever. If I want to be blunt, if you're not first, then you may as well be last, because you're chasing the deals. So I think shaping an opportunity is where you want to be. So it's fascinating because people sometimes want to give me a bit of, I get this a little bit. They say you've worked at a strategic level or whatever. We're down here on the transactional level, and to me, I go, okay, the process is the same, right? So if Steve is a candidate that I can place, how do I build rapport with Steve? Right? How do I build trust? Steve's going to look at my background and go, they're liaising with people within my skill set, and so they've probably got connections with the customers that I want to go and speak to, right? That's why I'll go and attach myself to you. So from a strategic level, what you want to do is you want to be able to research properly. So looking at data, and this is where insight selling has kind of come in, because you want to be able to go to a potential buyer and go, hey, ABC company, I work in this space and I'm an expert in this space, right? I'm not just a recruiter or a salesperson, but I immerse myself in this sector. Here's some of the trends that I'm seeing at the moment. Are you aware of ABC? This is how AI is being utilized within this sector. Here's some of the things that your competitors are doing. And also here's some feedback from a candidate side. Would you believe X number of candidates have just gone there recently because they offer these benefits, da-da-da-da-da, or maybe they're going the other way, they're leaving this business because there's more opportunity kind of over there. Again, what you need to have the ability to be a specialist, someone that knows this sector kind of inside out.
Yep.
And all you want to be able to do is really, is listen effectively, but enough credibility there to stimulate conversation. And I think that's where most people kind of go. They just want to go straight to sale. You can't shortcut the process.
So it sounds like not just the salesperson is doing a lot of research before the sale, but also the buyer as well.
100%.
Yeah. So with that in mind, there's only so much that a salesperson can maybe make an effect on a business.
Yeah.
So things like their brand history, the quality of the product. With that in mind, what sort of things do you say is important if you're going to a new company as a sales professional to get that success?
I think doing your research, understanding. So if you're talking about actually joining a company, obviously you've done the background, the cultural kind of alignments, etc. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's really that qualification piece. So what is the problem that you're trying to solve?
Yep.
and what are you going to do that's going to innovate and make you more successful, right? So whether it's utilizing kind of technology, but I think if I talk about this purely from a sales perspective right now, and it's a bit controversial, the personal brand is really where the value is.
Yeah.
And it's controversial in the sense that I speak to some businesses, some business owners that go, we do not want this particular person to be promoting themselves, etc., because they will almost do the peacock, put themselves out and probably open themselves up to other opportunities. Mm-hmm. Now I look at this and I go, I kind of see your point, but if you don't, then they will go elsewhere where they feel valued. Yep. And the company brand, whether you like it, yes, it's important. You see straight away these businesses, the Apples, the whatever, where people go, I'll go there. People will go where there's good stuff happening, where it's exciting and where they feel looked after. But to me, that's the biggest thing. If you want to be successful, you really have to focus on your personal brand. Yep. So the two big trends that I see in sales right now is personal brand and utilizing AI kind of strategically. So if you're not really immersing yourself in wherever organization you go, and particularly in sales, then you'll be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Talk to me about personal brand. I mean, I can get up on LinkedIn and say that I'm this and that and tell everyone like a politician, but ultimately it's what, in my mind, it's what others are going, how they're going to see me. And how would you sort of talk to people and suggest that you create a brand for yourself?
Yeah, again, the best example I can give is January last year, 24, when I just got into my consultant business. No one in January is paying you on a day rate or what have you. Sat at home, 3 kids, and it was actually a person that we know very well, Mario Beckish. He was chatting to me, took me for a coffee, and he said, "What can you do?" And I was like, and he said, "You can build your brand." And it actually set me off on this kind of journey to use video. And he basically said to me, military commitments, consistency is kind of key. And what we decided on was that I've been in recruitment 20 years. I was going to do 20 videos. Yeah. So what I did was I started doing 20 videos, and every day, and I look back now, and they were kind of, they were pretty raw, right? They were, my eyes were everywhere and this, that, and the other. But what happened was, and I still remember the metric, 100,000 people watched these videos in January. Wow. Was it timing? Was it whatever? I like to think that people went, middle-aged guy, he's just having a go, right? He's putting himself out there. And that you were being authentic, you're being authentically you, and they could see that there was value in there. So, even for me, I never sell. It's typically 60 to 90 seconds max because people's attention span's not there. But people consume video, and it was 20 times more engaging than actual written posts. So I think putting yourself out there, actually building a brand is kind of key. So that when you do pick up the phone, what you want people to go is, and it happens quite a bit to me now, is I know you. I actually know what you're about, etc. And that way, before you actually do the outreach, then they'll have more of an, understanding of what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, I watched a lot of these videos that you did in January, and I'm interested what your thoughts are on. A lot of people do the professional videos. Yep. They go get actors and professional scripts, and you had a lot of engagement by just sort of. What I even noticed, some of those videos you're off out in the mountains and with the jumper on, but the key sort of thing you've mentioned is it was real.
Yeah.
It wasn't scripted.
Yeah.
How much do you think that with an AI world is important in your social media presence?
Mate, I've become known for being authentic, right? And it's everything. I actually had some videos done professionally not long after, so probably Q1 last year.
Yep.
And they were great. I thought they looked good, etc. People didn't like them because they were too polished.
Yes.
And I shelved them, and it was nothing to do with it was just people said we like it when you're out and about, and sometimes you'll see me maybe fluff my words or stuff, but they know it's not scripted.
Yes.
And again, there's nothing wrong, and I think in a world now where you can have all these videos with graphics and all these kind of things kind of coming in. For me, that kind of formula was typically, as I say, about 60 seconds. It's not selling. It's 2 or 3 bits of information. Here's a problem that I think most people are encountering. Here's my take on it. People want your opinion, and they want you to be authentic, right? So it's that kind of consistency as well. Like I see a lot of people start, and then they stop. It's like, oh geez, it's not worked. I didn't get jobs coming from the sky, or I didn't get work. It doesn't work like that, right? So whenever I say to people, you know, I don't expect everyone to be, and I get this, people say, oh, well, you've kind of cracked it now. And I'm like, well, I haven't really, but again, go back to what I just said. January last year, I'd never really done it. You just have to build on it. You have to give it time. And it, to me, if you're not going to give it 3 to 6 months, then, you know, you've just don't do it, because if you can't post one video or do whatever and just expect the miracles that are going to happen, it's really when you start to gauge over 3 months, you can look at the data. What do people like? What are they engaging with? You know, etc. So just put yourself out there. The one thing I would say is there's no downside. There's only upside, right? Unless you're posting controversial kind of videos and stuff, or political views. If you're just being yourself, you know, that's what gets you noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important thing for a salesperson. When I started my career, people would say this is the most successful salesperson, this is what his script is.
Yep.
And what I found worked for me was the moment I stopped trying to copy that person, because what it did was I was saying someone else's script, so I was losing the authenticity.
Yep.
So with that in mind, what would you say is respecting sort of what's worked in the past, but you know, also being yourself? How do you get that balance right?
Oh, mate, great question. So people buy from people. So I think, and if we kind of bring this back to, you know, it's AI in some ways. I hope this kind of makes sense. People are so reliant now on AI around that kind of critical thinking, and I use it. You know, I've used ChatGPT, etc. But the thing that makes me stand out, and I fundamentally believe, is people can see that it's you that's written your posts, right? It's not scripted. You know, it's not the green ticks or whatever, all the giveaway signs for people who kind of know. So I think that the power of authenticity is really key.
We're in a business of solving problems for people. I think what a lot of salespeople like to do is they love to hear their own voice, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think what I've sort of found, especially more in professional services, is that dynamic between speaking and listening is changing. In fact, in some of the textbooks and training that I've said, up to 80% listening is actually is more successful. I don't think that it's quite that amount, but have you seen a shift in your sales career?
Oh, mate, 100%. And yes, I like to talk. You know, it's not to kind of contradict myself. You put yourself out there. You have to be seen. You have to fight for your airtime, like you really do, to be seen. You want to be the natural kind of choice. On the flip side of that, you know, as mentioned before, the reason that I talk about personal branding being so important is your clients, your potential clients have all access to all the technology that you have. So they are assessing. They've got a really good understanding of what the problems are and what the potential solutions are, right? And this one I went back to that first point around, you know, the limited amount of time that's spent speaking to new vendors, because they've already probably made the choice, right? And they've probably already eyed up a potential kind of partner. So, yeah, mate, listening is key. It goes back to that point, though. If you're not first, you're probably last. So that's why it's absolutely integral to have an outbound-led strategy as opposed to inbound. And there's many people that are so reliant now on inbound, and you are not in control of your fate. You're just not. So that's why I'm so passionate about the outbound piece. And again, you know, we talked about this the other day, and I saw a great post yesterday. Someone that says, you know, I've exited a business, this, that, and the other, but I still BD every day. Bang on. That's it. Like, the minute you give up BD, and I've seen this in so many businesses, they bring in layers of management and this, that, and the other, and everyone. And it's one of my biggest bugbears in sales. You know, as I mentioned to you, for 20 years I've been doing it in the recruitment space, 30 years, sadly, if you take into account my family business. You've got so much experience, and as long as you're staying relevant, then you've got so much to offer, right? And, you know, you should be head and shoulders above those that come in at an entry level. But a lot of people then want to move into management, right, and take their hands off the steering wheel. what I've actually seen is I believe this is fundamentally shifting right now, where people are going, we want a leader, but you've got a target and you need to lead from the front, and that's me, right? That's what I really enjoy. If you want someone to sit there and kind of shuffle paper or whatever, it's probably not me. Or just massage and make some minor tweaks. Someone to lead from the front and kind of get behind. So listening is key, but again, leading from the front and outbound mates, they're kind of key to success.
Yeah. So that leading from the front, how important do you think having the founder involved in a business for sales?
Mate, you are the face of the business. You know, you have to lead from the front, right? You know, it's I've seen this in so many kind of businesses. You know, if I went back to the private equity days in 22, talking to recruitment, a lot of businesses don't grow because they're so reliant on the founder.
Yeah.
So it's, again, not to kind of contradict, but people want to meet, they want to get to know the person who runs the business, the values, the offering, etc. You have to lead from the front. So one of the things I've always enjoyed in my kind of career is opening doors for people.
Yes. Because
people will have a conversation with you because they go, happens like this week, I mentioned to you, I've been working on a project, an M&A kind of project, and people will look, and if you're doing outreach, they'll look at you.
Yep.
You'll see they'll check in, they'll go, okay, this person's probably worth connecting with. Then they're expecting a call, right, from you, not from someone kind of, junior or what have you. But if you lead from the front, and I've done this in every business that I've kind of been in, the best way that I can help you, whether I've been leading the business or founder of my own business or whatever it is, who do we want to get in front of, right? Who's our target market? Who's the customers? Yep. That's the best gift that I can give you, and I'll show you how I go about it. So, gentleman that we both know, Marcus Patel, who joined us when I was at Pinpoints, was the best example of this. I said, just watch and see and observe how I kind of go about it. I took him to so many meetings that I'd done.
Yes.
And then you watch someone kind of develop. And that's what I talked about before with this kind of generational piece. You've got those that come in green, where I think they can add so much value if they're watching experienced people. So, mate, it's integral that you still BD, right? It's you have to.
Yeah. You talked about understanding your target market. Now, whilst we're saying listening is important, but also when you do talk, understanding the target market and how you communicate in your social media and things like that, is how much effort would you say you focus on that part of it, and what some of the tips you would say to people that maybe just go out there and do the shotgun approach, where they just try a bit of everything?
Mate, it's, again, quality over quantity has been a term I've used. So go back to that previous question, you have to do the outreach. So, for myself, over the last kind of 3 or 4 weeks, I sit at home, and as I said, go back to my first question, it might be a bit sad, I actually enjoy connecting with people, right? So I connect with people, use LinkedIn kind of religiously, stimulate conversations, and your time is kind of precious. But I put myself on the receiving end, and I go, I don't like it when someone just connects with me and then spams me with an essay. I hate it.
Yes.
And I know 99% of people do, right? Because it's automated. There's no substance or what have you. It's pretty poor. So again, that kind of one-to-way touch point is key. So if we just connect, and I've learned this, and by the way, I get it wrong sometimes. Sure. Yeah. Someone connects that you think, geez, have I got something for you? You pitch them, and then they just go away. And it happens, mate, right? I've done this where, we've had various people that, if people think that you're looking to take from them as opposed to give, it falls over very quickly. And I've had this particularly with senior people, or, to be honest, people that are well known, or maybe they know that they're highly desirable in some way, if that makes sense, because the connections.
We're used to everyone hitting on them, basically.
Bingo.
So,
Bingo.
They see it coming from a mile away.
They see it coming a mile off, and again, I've had experiences like this, and I look back and I went, and this is me holding the mirror up and go, maybe I pushed too hard. Maybe I was too keen, and actually, and I know this, I can go a million miles an hour. I like connecting people, and I'm passionate. You know what I mean? I like helping people. That's what I'm about. So, but the outreach is kind of key. So I think be respectful, be strategic, make sure you're connecting with the right people. I think is key, because you can end up with a network of completely the wrong people. and keep offering value up front. Like a question that I kind of get time and time again is, how do you know when someone's either ready to buy, or how do you know the opposite when someone's, you know, either a tire kick or whatever?
Yeah.
As I said, go back to that kind of point, 1 to 8 touch points. So what I find is, if you're engaging with people, with someone, and you've done your research, let's say 2 or 3 kind of meetings, conversations, wherever they are, probably by the time you get to number 4 or 5, they're probably going, I'm yanking this person's chain here, or actually I like them, let's have a conversation, you know, a detailed conversation. It just naturally happens. Or the flip side, you could sit there and go, there's no way in this world that we're going to do business together, right? And you'll respectfully kind of move off. That's just life.
And that's a challenge, especially say it's a larger potential client. How do you make that call?
Mate, experience. If I go back a couple of years ago, you know, worked in strategic sales for, you know, some awesome global recruitment businesses, and I've always prided myself on having a top 20 of prospects, you know, working in the strategic space. And you could ask me any about the top 5 or 6, any questions that you want. The others, I'd be a bit flaky. Maybe if we get down, you know, 10 to 20, you know, maybe we've had a couple of conversations, this, that, and the other. But it was qualified. And I would sit there and spend so much time on these are the 4 or 5 that I think, you know, we're in deep conversations, we've met multiple kind of stakeholders. I think that to me is a sign as a sales leader. When you look at, you want to go, tell me what you know about that. How many touch points have we had? Why are we the natural choice? You know, why would we be number 1? Why would they buy from us? You know, will they pay our fees? The culture that they align with us, all these kind of things. And I've seen the opposite side. If I go back and I'll again try and hold the mirror up to myself. When I first entered this kind of industry many years ago, I remember being the new kid on the block, and you'd chase everything, right? You'd chase deals, you'd chase tenders, and this, that, and the other, and then you go, it's a great way to waste time. You can look busy, you can have an awesome pipeline report, but no one's going to convert. And I've seen it with people, mate. And then, you know, they've got this one big deal that's going to drop, and then guess what? It gets put on hold or it falls through. I always kind of worked on almost like a 1 in 4 kind of ratio. You know, the average sales cycle was 12 to 18 months.
Yes. Yeah.
And it would typically kind of come through, or if it didn't, there was a reason. But, you know, it wasn't that we just spent time chasing ghosts. And go back to the first thing that I kind of said is control what you can control. And I think if you're first in the conversation, you've done your research, you understand the value that you can bring, and you've got some real USPs, you can't, who knows whether you'll win, but I guarantee your success rate will probably be higher if you've done all the kind of the qualification fundamentals.
Yeah, fantastic. What I see with a lot of people start their business is they want to get that perfect website.
Yeah.
They'll spend months on this thing, and we all do it. You know, it's sometimes it's the first impression, as we talked about, people making decisions before they even meet us. But if you're thinking about sort of planning your ideal week, and it is about sort of making connections and phone calls and focusing on your ideal, what do you see as sort of some of the key fundamentals in that week, and what sort of ratios would you be focusing on?
Oh, mate, time management is key. You know, it's the most precious thing that you have, and I wouldn't say, I've got to be honest, I'd say I'm good at it, and I'm getting better, and particularly when you're working on your own, you have to be a lot more kind of structured. And again, for me, as I mentioned before, sometimes that's kind of hard, right? Because I like doing the fun stuff, which is connecting with people, this, that, and the other. You know, all the admin stuff and that, you tend to push it to one side, right? And that's just natural. So I have to kind of plan my week out. You know, if you look now, the days since kind of COVID, Tuesday, Thursdays tend to be really busy in the city. It's funny, Friday's like a ghost town, right? So we had, I was at an event I spoke at a couple of weeks ago, and people flew in from out of town, and they were trying to meet business owners on the Friday, and they couldn't get hold of anyone, and they were gobsmacked. And I was like, this is so even little things like that, trying to manage the diary. What I would say to you is that you have to put time aside, and I do time for outreach. You know, look at my kind of admin, planning what I'm going to do, you know, with social media kind of posts, etc. And I spend a lot of time, particularly on a Monday and a Friday, and I know this might sound kind of controversial, but I dare say that the productivity on those particular days is quite low these days. So if you wanted to kind of get ahead, put some real effort in on a Monday and a Friday. Like, it just sounds a bit bonkers, but I see this in social media posts and things, right?
Yeah.
People, I think, you know, and this is not to kind of stick the boot into working from home, you know, that's kind of really helped me, you know, with the kids. Like, even today, you know, that flexibility, I think things are changing, not kind of coming back, but control what you can control in your activity. You know, are you going to reach out to 20 people today? Can you meet 5 people for a cup of coffee? Can you put 3 posts up this week? You know, can you help 3 people or whatever it is? If you tick those boxes and you set, and you kind of, you know, put that over a period of time, you'll be successful. So I think control what you can control, you know, do the activity and show up every day with the kind of the right attitude. I don't think you can ask any more than that.
Yeah, I think you've touched on an important point. It's more than just activity. It's focused activity.
Yeah.
Some people, yeah, as you said, they want to just keep busy and,
Yeah.
and give the perception they're busy. But what are they actually doing? Is in what's that focused activity, and also being self-aware and understanding. I mean, for me, I'm not a 5 a.m. person that wants to get up and exercise, but I will exercise, and I exercise pretty regularly. But I learned pretty quickly I'm not always a morning person,
Yep.
and I have different energies at different days. So, you know, if you can sort of force the activity on certain days and Monday mornings and Friday afternoons, but if that's not always going to happen, then it's being clearer with those and saying, okay, these are the activities I need to do every single week to get me results. And I think that's where it is a plan, but it's also an individual project as well.
Oh, mate, 100%. Like, and you know, discipline. You know, it's so interesting when you hold it. Again, said this. You said hold the mirror up. But I say at times on the most structured. You know, some people who've worked with me over careers would probably laugh. But actually, when I go through my kind of sales process, you know, I built a 5-step kind of sales methodology. You know, number 1, you talk about attracting someone's attention. Number 2, kind of building engagement. Number 3, rapport and trust. 4 is co-creating opportunity. And number 5 is kind of close and repeat. And I religiously kind of go through this. And someone laughed and they said, how the hell can you say you're not structured? Because you kind of reel it off, and I do this in a call, do whatever. The discipline required, you know, particularly when you've got your own business. And again, for me, over the last kind of 3-4 weeks, stepping back into that kind of that world where no one's chasing you for things, right? It's really, you have to focus on the things that are going to bring in money. So even like the last couple of weeks, go back to that kind of time management. I could spend a lot of my time chatting to people, letting them know what I'm up to. I've sent a lot of proposals out, and a lot of people go, geez, there's some really good ideas in there. We don't want to spend any money or what have you. And that's one that probably, that's just life, you know, there's nothing that's kind of guaranteed. So kind of being disciplined and going, okay, where are the opportunities that are going to be honest, put food on the table? You know, they're going to, a good client is one that actually pays your bills, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of key.
Invoicing,
yeah. So mate, that discipline is kind of key. In every kind of step of the way.
That transition from going from a brand to really having your own brand.
Yeah.
There's a company brand and the individual brand. How do you sort of describe to someone that may not know that's always worked in a strong branded corporate world to actually going out there and starting your own business, and what are some of the key things you've learned from there, and what are some of the tips you would give to others?
Mate, I think it's something everyone should do once in their life. And you know, there's advice that's everywhere. Take advice from those who've actually kind of done it, and it doesn't mean in terms of starting a business, but whatever you want to do. Everyone's got great advice, but have they actually done it themselves, right? You know, simple thing is you hear people talk about parenting. I haven't got kids, but this you gotta go wait until you get there, right? And you know, and I don't mean that being disrespectful, but you kind of know where I'm going. Like, I've got a very close knit of people that I go to, and I'm quite lucky that I can call on. You know, people have been there in the recruitment industry or what have you. You know, so many things, and people have, and I know that they've got the experience, right? So this is a kind of a key thing. So I think it's something that everyone should do, because you realise how kind of tough it is. First time round, it's kind of quite daunting. You kind of step off the diving board kind of thing, and you're just kind of going for it, right? Or parachute without the parachute kind of thing. The other thing I'd say is, you can plan and you can overthink, and I've been very guilty of this. And you think about all the things that could go wrong, and you think about all the things that could kind of go right. And I think, even for me and from where I am today, if you don't believe in yourself, or you don't believe in the value that you can provide, then don't even start, mate, because you're already done before you kind of go. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's that mental battle, and there's many days, mate, where I've woke up and gone, I think this is in the bag, next minute it's on hold, or it's this, that, and the other. As I mentioned, to all my kind of faults, there's definitely, I've got strengths, and I've definitely got a lot of development areas, let's just say. I talked about before, I never turned a computer on really until I was 27. Explains a lot about my IT skills. So, I stopped trying to think that I needed to be the best person on computers and stuff. Yep. But what I could be is, I could be the best in my industry at sales, revenue generation, branding, etc. And I think once you kind of realise that you're not everyone's perfect. There's many people who would not like to pick up a phone and cold call someone. You know what I mean? So I think, if I kind of sum it up, take the risk, back yourself, but also, you don't have to have everything kind of planned out.
Yeah. Last questions. Favourite quote you've heard for sales?
Control what you can control. It's really, really simple. You hire people, and you can do all the research, the background, and think this person's going to be successful or what have you. Yeah. And even if you're looking at yourself, if you set yourself a task and go, I'm going to make 10 calls today, I'm going to connect with X person, I'm going to follow up with these people, I'm going to meet with these, if you're doing that, you can't control what happens externally. You can't control the market, right? You can't control, if it's in recruitment, whether this person's going to take the job or whether, whatever. And I see so many people trying to worry or getting bogged down in factors that you just cannot control, right? So I definitely think I've improved in terms of how I handle, the uncontrollables, which is you just kind of have to let it be. Yeah. So, mate, that's definitely the best bit of advice.
Yeah. It's there's a book called The Little Red Book of Selling, and he talks about, basically, at all his sales, he had one big sale.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, look, my career could have been based on that one big sale, but all those little sales along the way and all the preparation I did, it allowed me to convert that large sale, and I think that's sort of often what you're talking about there. Any other books that you would suggest?
The Challenger Sale is a good one. I really like that, in terms of framing the kind of the conversations and things and making people think differently. I also liked Jim, and I know it's not sales specifically, but Jim Collins' Good to Great, and then the follow Built to Last, I think are great. I still talk about that, the flywheel effect when you're kind of in business. So there's a couple that kind of spring to mind. It's funny because I listen to probably a lot more kind of podcasts these days and things. So the Brian Burns one is a good one, The Brutal Truth About Sales, and again, talking about him and go back to the point that I made there before, which is, look, he's been in sales so long. I'm trying to be respectful. I say that, but a lot of experience, but still keeps reinventing himself and talking about things. And there's a lot of the old school kind of values. So I like the messaging that he kind of puts through on the podcast.
Yeah, and you talked a lot about branding.
Yeah.
What would you say is the brand of Steve Tolen, or the legacy you want to leave?
Mate, always authentic. I think that's we said that word many times. I'm a connector. I really enjoy connecting and helping people. As I reflected on this kind of before, which is those that have kind of known me, and I've delighted, humbled that I've got so many friends that have, and clients, former clients, people have, whatever, people I've worked with in business, and they stick with you because I think they understand that with the energy or whatever that you bring, it's coming from a pure place. I'm quite kind of proud of that, you know. And as I said, I don't always get it right. There's some people come and think, Jesus, he's full on, like, you know, is he? And it's not. It's actually I enjoy connecting with people and kind of helping people. So, you know, the whole Stolen kind of piece, that's my name, Tolen. I mentioned this previously. I spent a lot of time thinking I had to behave like this corporate kind of cutout, etc.
Yes.
And once you realise that people just want to they want to engage with the real you and kind of being authentically you, warts and all, I think you'll realise that that's what it's all about, mate. So authentic.
Yeah, it's funny, we've both got the blue jackets, but
Yeah.
One of the things I sort of learned was there is that corporate mould, and to get authenticity, you got to get rid of that loose suit and brown shoes. You
Yeah.
know, everyone sort of, the next person steps in, but when you've really got a real person, authentic person,
100%.
they can't replace that person.
No.
So yeah, look, very good interview, Steve. Any last words?
No, but mate, pleasure to be invited on. Hope there's some kind of pearls of wisdom there. You know, sales is, you know, it's my passion. It's what I really enjoy, and I think when you kind of boil it down, you know, for me, it's the art of relationship building, kind of connecting people. And again, I think for those that really kind of throw themselves into it, be authentically themselves and just control what you can control, mate, then you know, there's a good career out there.
Fantastic. Appreciate
Thanks,
your
mate.
time.
All the best.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll be sending in the podcast out soon. So thanks again, Steve. Appreciate your time.
No worries. Thank you.